Hi everyone, and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, we aim to give you a taste of international student life at Lund as we speak to our current students, alumni, teachers, and many more special guests. My name is Daniel Gunnarsson, and I'm working as a recruitment manager at Lund University. In today's episode, we will talk about different housing opportunities at our campus and also what you can expect when looking for housing. With me here today, I have one of our lovely student workers, Maria Morales. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Of course. Hello. My name is Maria Morales. I come from Costa Rica and I'm studying the mathematics bachelor program. I am also a student worker here at External Relations.
Wonderful. Thank you. Lovely having you on the show today.
Thank you.
Before we jump into today's discussion, I just would like to highlight to the audience and all the listeners that you need to check our webpage for up-to-date information about housing, since things might have changed between the time of this recording and the time when you will be looking for accommodation. But with that being said, I know, Marie, that you have been living in quite a few different housings here in Lund. What was the first housing opportunity you got when you applied to Lund University?
Yes, it was a very exciting moment when I got my admission, and right away I started searching for the application website for LU accommodation. As a student outside the European Union, it means I have housing guarantee. So I knew that I had a place safe for me here at Lund, which was a very calming sensation for both me and my mom. She was very worried because when you're moving so far away, of course. So the LD accommodation service is such a great thing when you're coming from far away. I applied the day that it opened. I was very excited, very eager about it. And when you apply, you're gonna be able to choose your preferences. As a disclaimer, it's important to say that you might not get your first in the list of preferences, but if you have housing guarantee, you are for sure getting a place, which is the best option you can have when you are searching for accommodation from far away.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking what was your preference? Was it a specific place to live, or was it a specific type of accommodation you were looking for?
I was like jumping in the water and I wanted to live in a corridor room because I wanted to interact with different people, which is something that I was so afraid about, of course, living with a lot of people who you never met and they're all from different places. But I have to say that it was such a great experience. I did not get my first choice, but I'm very happy with the one I got, actually. I think it was even better than the one that I chose at the end. Yeah.
Fantastic. Because we can tell to our audience here that we do offer quite a few different types of accommodations. So we have studio flats, which is basically like your own apartment with a bathroom, you have a kitchenette, you have your own shower, you have your own bedroom and everything you need. Then we have corridor rooms where there are two different types. The most common one, then you have your own bathroom, which I guess that you did have, Marie, right?
Yes. Thankfully, yes.
Yes, thankfully, yes.
Yeah.
And then you usually share the kitchen, right? You did share a kitchen and maybe a living room or something.
Yeah,
like
the common spaces.
The common space together, yes. The other type of housing that we offer through Lund University accommodation is also one-bedroom apartments or two-bedroom apartments. Yeah. And these are usually shared between students. So it's for friends or people who know each other. They can apply for these together. And then you can have your own bed in an apartment, but you do share everything else in the apartment with someone else, which is quite lovely, I think.
I think so too, especially if you know someone already. It would be so nice to have someone you already know here.
Yeah, and it's fantastic because this is actually something we added a couple of years ago because, of requests from our international students. They wanted to live together, so we made that happen. Another thing, I think that your apartment was furnished, wasn't it? You did have furniture.
Yes, everything was furnished, not only in the room, but also in the kitchen and the common area. I did not have to get any plates or cutlery or really anything. We have everything ready to go there, which was also very good.
That's fantastic, yeah. And I know that you lived at a place called Edan, which is a little bit odd of a word for internationals, I guess. Even it's odd for me as a Swedish person as well. But that was fairly far away from the city center, wasn't it? How did you experience that when you were living here?
Yeah. When you hear that it's like almost 4 kilometers away, it seems like it's so far from the city center. But in reality, the city is very well connected. So even though it's almost 4 kilometers away, you are able to travel by bike or by bus very easily, I would say. But yes, some people are afraid when they get Edan because they say, oh, it's the furthest housing area. But no, it's really no worries. And there are a lot of benefits from living in the outer parts of the city. Like you have a lake and all the trails where you can walk, and there's a forest, and you get to see the fields from your window. So that's one of the reasons why I was so happy about getting Edan.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely lovely. I do live on the opposite side of Lund. It's the same thing there. There's just open fields, lovely nature, and I can at least get to the city center within like 10 to 15 minutes with the bike.
Exactly.
And I guess it's the same for you.
It's the same, yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of our listeners to this show might not know that Lund is quite tiny. It's a small city. It's not like London or a large city. You do not commute for like hours. You can
not at all.
easily go anywhere with a bike, which is fantastic. But you were talking about Lund University accommodation, but I know that you have moved recently.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. I thought it was a time in my life where I wanted something different. I've been living with LU accommodation for 2 years, and I had amazing experiences there. I am only grateful with the service that the university provides. But I wanted something different, maybe to change the atmosphere. So I went into the Bopoolen site, which is a very important one for people who are looking for private accommodation. And you can search by price range or how far you want it from the city center. And yes, I was able to find a place, a studio apartment in the surrounding areas.
The surrounding areas.
Yeah.
So now you're outside of Lund then.
Yes, I am. Yes.
That's amazing as well. So we also have other ways of finding accommodation in Lund. And I like the fact that you've tried both the Lund University accommodation, which is safe. I mean, that's the safest option. And if you're a non-EU student, like you're not from the European Union or an EEA country, you have a housing guarantee, so you can get housing from us directly. But if you're not, then Bopoolen is a very, very good opportunity for you to find housing as well, which is safe as well, because they do review all of the ads on the site. Another way of getting accommodation in Lund is through Bostäder, which is also run by the student union. So it's also run by students. And they have plenty of opportunities to students to apply for housing. Usually there's a lottery every year.
Yeah.
Did you participate in the lottery?
No, I did not. But some of my European friends did apply for what it's called the Novish lottery.
Yes.
And it's right in July, like mid-July usually. And then you have to participate, and then you get a number in the queue, the very important queue for housing. Once you come here, you realize queuing will be part of your everyday, including for these housing opportunities with the AF Bostäder, which is the private housing for students. That's how we call it here. And they have so many options. There's so many different types of rooms. Again, corridor rooms, studio apartments, shared apartments with several bedrooms. And they're all over the city, I would say. And they're all very close to city center as well. So a lot of my friends live in different places from the AF company.
Are they happy with their living quarters with AF Bostäder? Do you know if they like it or?
Yes, for sure they like it. There are certain areas that are very known for being party places. So if you are interested in like having these type of activities in your corridor, or the famous TTCs, which is the parties that you do with your own corridor, then there are definitely places with AF that would offer that.
Fantastic. So you're saying that you're living in the outskirts of Lund. How far from the city center are you living now?
It's actually almost the same as Edan. It's 3.7 kilometers away. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you because when I started studying in Lund myself, which is now a very long time ago, I lived in something called Kävlinge, which is in the region of Lund as well, but it's about 10 minutes away by train. But I actually never had a problem myself when I was a student because, 10 minutes on the train, 10 minutes walk or going by bike in Lund, it was not really a problem. And it was very easy to find accommodation back then in Kävlinge, and I think it's still the same. It might be easier to find accommodation outside of Lund. So I just wanted to highlight that it is possible to find accommodation outside of Lund and you will be fine. You will survive.
Yeah, exactly.
It will not be a problem.
No, and again, everything is so well connected. Now the bus that I take is only 10 minutes away from city center. So even though it's not even inside of Lund, it's still 10 minutes away. Yeah.
That's fantastic. When you were living at Eddan with Lund University accommodation,
Yeah.
was that only a Lund University accommodation building, or did you also have Swedish students living there?
Oh, it was only international students,
Only
yes.
international
And
students.
also exchange students from Europe as well.
Cool.
Yes.
So there was a bit of people moving in and out at least. So there was not the same students living there the whole time then, because you must have had a lot of exchange students coming in. Yeah.
In total, I counted.
Yeah.
During 2 years, I lived with 18 people from 15 different nationalities.
Oh, that's cool.
And I learned how to cook a dish from all these countries, which was my favorite experience.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think that is quite common otherwise, that students are also living in like shared accommodations, like in shared corridors with Swedish students as well. But that's not an experience you've had then. So maybe we should just glance over that for this discussion today.
Unfortunately, no, I did not have the chance to live with Swedes, but in the AF company, you get a chance to live with a lot of Swedes there. Yeah.
For sure, yes, because you will be applying together with the Swedish students. So you will definitely have an apartment together with Swedish students as well. So if that's an opportunity for all the listeners as well, if you would like to live with Swedish students, it might be a good idea to apply for the AF Bostäder, the Novice lottery. Even if you have a housing guarantee, you can still apply. So you could,
have different options.
have different options for sure.
Yeah.
So talking about housing in general, could you tell us a little bit more about the cost of accommodation, roughly? Like how much does it cost to live where you did at Eddan, for instance?
I believe Eddan is a bit on the pricier side. The buildings are very new. So I was paying at the beginning around 4,500, which is usual for a corridor room. But then I moved to this other studio apartment and it's 5,000. So it's not very different. I guess it depends a lot in the area that you're in. But most places, I would say they're under 5,000 crowns for corridors. And if you're looking for another type of accommodation in the private sector, then you get a lot of different options for sure.
Yeah. There's actually quite a huge range, I think, from Lund University accommodation. I think it's between like 21,000, something like that, up to 41,000 for a full semester.
Yeah.
So it's quite a bit of a range. So if that's something you need to focus on as well, if you're feeling that you would have a lack of funds, or if you would like to live cheaper, maybe you should look through all of the accommodation offers that are available for Lund University accommodation as well. And then you can decide. Unfortunately, we can't guarantee anything, but you can at least wish to get a certain accommodation based on the price or the location. And usually that it goes in hand because usually the newer buildings are a bit more expensive than the older ones. So that's something you can take into consideration.
I remember that I did that. On the LU accommodation website, you can check for the prices of each type of room and each housing area. So if you go into the LU accommodation website, you can check for the price range for each place.
Yeah, which is fantastic. In your class where you're studying now, well, first of all, we haven't even spoken about that. What are you studying, by the way?
Oh, mathematics. Bachelor program.
That's lovely. So I know that you have both Swedish and international students in your program. Do you know where they live? Are there anyone living like in Malmö or Helsingborg, or are they all living in Lund?
Oh, they live all over the place. I would say there's a lot of who live with their families, which I think is such a nice arrangement, of course. But definitely everywhere, I would say. Yeah, one of my friends, she was doing an internship and she moved to Malmö. And she was enjoying it so much, of course, because in Lund you have this very tiny, medieval-looking town. Everything is so close. But then you take the train 10, 15 minutes away and you have Malmö, which is what I call the big European city.
Yeah, it's not that big, but it is the third largest in Sweden at least.
Exactly.
I mean, it is a big city. It's fantastic as well. But we also have Helsingborg. It's fairly close by as well. I know a lot of students are traveling from Helsingborg every day. We have colleagues traveling from Helsingborg. And the good thing is, both from Malmö and Helsingborg, you do have the train. It's not that difficult to get to Lund. And I think that Lund is also the third largest train station in Sweden. There's a lot of traffic, so there's always trains available.
There's always trains,
So even if you can't find housing in Lund, don't freak out. There are opportunities outside of Lund, and it might look that it's far away on the map, but if there's a train going, you should be fine as well.
And coming from where I come from, I mean, the trains here are so fast. I have to say, So if you see that it's 100 kilometers away, it's still really, really fast. And Malmo is really not that far away, or Helsingborg, so it's really, really fast to get here. Yeah.
I actually think that from Eddan, from the top floor, you have quite a nice view.
Very, yeah.
Wouldn't you be able to actually see Malmö from the windows?
You can.
Yes.
And you can see the turning torso.
Yes, and I think you could actually see Copenhagen as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and the Oddesund Bridge. Yeah.
It's actually not that far off. I mean, you can actually see it from your building. Yeah.
You would always see planes arriving to or leaving from Copenhagen Airport. Yeah.
New students to Lund University, most likely. Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully. No, I like it a lot. So now when we're talking about accommodation in today's episode, I mean, we probably have to talk a little bit about the things that are going on in the world as a whole. And unfortunately, since Lund University is a very popular university, one of the most popular universities in Europe as well, there is a problem with placing scam ads online for private accommodation.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to tell students about this because we do have the bopoolen service here in Lund, which is fairly good because they do review all ads. I mean, it's up to you to make sure that the ad is still valid and it's a nice place to be. But how did you think about that when you made your application for private accommodation?
I have to say that even living here for 2 years, I was still unsure a little bit. So I went to the bopoolen side because I know that is basically run by a part of the university. So they check everything, and that made me feel safer for sure. And when I checked the ad, I did a bit of a search on my own too, just to make sure that this place actually exists and the owner is a real person. And of course, I did actually communicate with bopoolen about a few questions that I had, and they answered super fast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know that bopoolen is run by the student unions. I know that they have employees working there. I also know, and this is a top tip for everyone looking for accommodation, if you find private accommodation somewhere, you can actually use the template contracts that are at the bopoolen website, and they will also give you top tips and ideas about what to include in the contract, so you will feel a little bit safer when you're signing a private agreement with some sort of landlord here in the region. But this is the thing we just want you to know, everyone listening in, that this is very common at big universities in Europe, that there are people trying to scam students, so just beware. But if you're applying for Lund University accommodation, if you're applying for AF Bostäder, if you're using bopoolen and common sense, you should be fine. Another thing you should consider is if they ask you to pay in advance, maybe you shouldn't do that, especially not if they're not in Sweden and want you to pay. That's a big no-no. So just remember that, and you should be fine. Talking about this like boring stuff, what's the best part of living in Lund, do you think?
Oh my God, there's just so many things. Again, coming from so far away, everything is so different, but for good, and you get to learn so much. And I feel like this is a merger of cultures, and you see people from all around the world. You get so many different perspectives, and you get to share your own, which is very endearing when someone says, "Oh, I find your country or your life so interesting." And for sure, I would recommend that if you want to meet people, you should live in a corridor. My first and second year corridor mates really made my day every day here at Lund. I got to meet them in such deep level that even though some of them already graduated and left Sweden, we still message all the time, and some of them come back to visit. And it is such a nice thing. The friendships, for sure, here in Lund. Yeah.
Sounds absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
I didn't have that opportunity myself. I lived in a flat the whole time I was a student. And I wish that I would have had more time, because corridor life seems very nice, and it's more like you do stuff together. And you can focus on things that are not related to studies as well. And I think that some apartments, you even have like an open space outside where you can do barbecues and stuff.
Oh yes, we did. Yeah.
I like it.
Roasting marshmallows and some sausages for hot dogs is a very, very nice experience. And if you're afraid of living with strangers, it's completely understandable. But if you apply common sense, as you mentioned, for everything, it would work. Just make sure that you respect everyone's boundaries and that you make yourself aware that everyone is different, and just have a cleaning schedule. and everything will be fine.
Yeah, because you do have to basically clean the shared parts of the living spaces.
So if you have a schedule and everyone follows it, it can be very, very nice that way. Yeah.
Because that is one thing I know is different from many other international universities where they might have professional cleaners coming in, but you actually have to be grown-ups here in Sweden, right?
Yes. And you have to cook for yourself and clean after yourself and clean as a collective too. So just make sure that you come prepared for that. Yeah. There's some anecdotes of people who maybe don't know that you have to clean after yourself, and
some people come here and expect to have their family with them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. But, everyone comes from a different background. And if we're all understanding and we follow the rules, it's just, I have to say that it really changed my experience here. If I think about what would have been if I lived in a studio on my own since the beginning, I would have missed out on so much. So I recommend corridor life, especially for your first year.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So talking about the corridor life and now having a studio flat, what's the benefit of having a studio flat today? What do you like about living on your own now?
Maybe that side of like privacy that you have. And yes, sometimes the silence is also nice. But again, it's because I've been living with people for so long. But again, if I see like retrospective, I should have, and I did choose corridor life, and it was completely right at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because if you're new in a town, you get to meet people, and I think it's a very good thing that you actually don't decide on who to live with because you do not live with the students you might study with. You're actually living with students from all different
programs, countries, everything,
faculties. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's also nice, especially during winter time, to share with other people around you and just to have some fika. Because when it gets dark, you prefer to be inside your house, and there you can chat around and just support yourselves.
Yeah, the darkness is real, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's not dangerous in any way, but yes, it gets really dark in the winter, especially if there's no snow. But once the snow arrives, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, winter wonderland.
It is, for sure.
Especially if you come from a place there's no snow. When you arrive and you see it, oh my God, yes.
You basically do not have that many, you don't have autumn as well, do you? You basically have most of summer most of the time.
Oh, yes.
Year. Yes.
Compared to Sweden, we have summer all year round.
Yeah. For us, that sounds like paradise. All right, everybody. I hope that you have had a very good time listening in about accommodation and Lund University. And I would like to say a great thank you, Marie. It's always lovely having you on the show. Always lovely working with you.
Thank you.
So what we would like to tell you all is thank you for listening in and hope to see you in Lund in the future. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and X. And you can chat with our current students on Unibody. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.